Hello everybody, my name is Christian Sorensen, and I'm sorry if the lighting's a little bit weird. I'm not a regular content creator, although I'd like to get into it, of course. Anyway, my name is Christian Sorensen, and welcome! Thank you for watching the video. And if you've seen my videos before, you might know that I did a video about how science shows that protein powder is good for your health. Well, you can check out my channel if you want to see that video. It's about 80 minutes long. I use a lot of scientific data to show that protein powder improves your health. So you could of course check out that video. For this video, we're going to talk about how scientific studies show that cardio is excellent for your health. More specifically, we're going to use a lot of scientific studies here. The studies show that cardio improves your mental health. Cardio improves your cardiovascular health. It helps reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease more specifically. And studies show that cardio actually helps you lose weight. So if you're trying to lose weight, cardio can help you out. Little side note here, scientific studies also show that cardio does not kill muscle mass. Or, put another way, cardio does not kill gains. And like I said, we'll cite a lot of scientific studies to show all this. So, thank you for coming in, and let's dive into it. Now, a fair question you should ask anybody on the internet, me included: who the heck are you to tell me about anything, such as cardio? Well, that's a fair question. Here's who I am as it pertains to cardio. My name is Christian. I'm a physical therapist assistant in Chicagoland. And I like being a physical therapist assistant, but anyway, how this relates to scientific studies is that I went to school to become a physical therapist assistant. And part of the curriculum is them teaching you how to read a scientific study. So, because of my education in physical therapist assistant school, I have some knowledge on how to read a scientific study. Alright, it's part of the job. Part of the education, rather. So, I'm going to cite these academic journals to show that cardio is beneficial for your health. And I've noticed in recent years, it's been pretty mainstream for fitness influencers to dismiss cardio as being harmful. It's pretty mainstream for fitness influencers to say, cardio makes you fat, or cardio's bad exercise, or stuff like that. Okay? I'm going to use scientific studies to show that cardio is good for you, first of all, but I'll also refute some of these anti-cardio influencers towards the end of the video. But as it relates to me and cardio, I've always been a cardio bunny. I'll own it. I did cross-country and track and field all 4 years of high school and college, and I still run to this day. I run almost every day, in fact. So I've always been a cardio junkie. So this anti-cardio sentiment in recent years has really become disturbing to me. And like I said earlier, my cardio journey, well, it kind of took off in high school and college, but it was really in grade school where it started. I ran cross-country on the grade school cross-country team there, and we were not a good cross-country team. Not even close. Although I was the best runner for my school, or close to it. So I did cross-country in grade school. I was pretty good at it. I went to high school and college. And my cardio journey really took off when I was in high school. I went to it's now Walther Christian Academy, but it used to be Walther Lutheran, alright? I did cross-country and track and field there. And my cross-country career was pretty good. I got pretty close to making it downstate my junior year, but I didn't make it. There was a guy ahead of me who ran like a 15:30 3-mile or something like that in cross-country, and he was literally the last guy who made it downstate that year. Like, I'm not kidding. I ran a 15:45 3-mile in high school cross-country, and I still did not make it downstate, which should give you an idea of how insanely good my high school cross-country conference was. So my cross-country career in high school was pretty good, but track and field, I was even better. And I don't mean to brag, but I was. Alright? My senior year of high school, in 2010, I made it to the 2-mile downstate. I was so good, I qualified for the 2 mile in the downstate track meet, and I got 23rd place with a time of 10:10. Little side note here, I'll put all of my times in the description below, so you can check those out if you want. My name is Christian Sorensen, 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 okay? Look for me, you'll find me in there, okay? So, I had a really successful high school cross-country and track career. Awesome. I went to college, Concordia University, Chicago, and again, I did cross-country and track all 4 years there. And much like high school, I was pretty good in cross-country, but I was better in track. Not trying to brag or anything. My junior year of college was probably my most successful year when it comes to track and field. It was 2013 conference championships. I ran a 33:50 in the 10,000 meter, which was good enough for 7th place that year. That's barely finishing on the podium. 8th is enough to score points. So 8th is finishing on the podium, and I got 7th. So I barely finished on the podium, but still, it counts. And even to this day, I'm a cardio bunny. I've always been a cardio bunny. I joined the Army Reserves in 2019. You're welcome for your service, but I never deployed, so I'm not a hero. But anyway, I joined the Army Reserves, and shortly after I enlisted, I realized that there were numerous soldiers in basic who were stronger and bigger than I was. I was struggling to do certain activities, and I realized, holy cow, if I'm going to be in the Army, I better get bigger and stronger. I got into the weight room shortly after, in about 2023, and so I made decent progress in the weight room, but I still run. I run on days even when I lift, and like I said, I run almost every day. I love it that much. I'm a runner. I'm a cardio bunny, and I like it. So yes, I'm biased, but scientific studies do show that cardio is good for your health. Now, I'm going to cite a lot of academic articles here, so you might want to pause the video sometimes. You might want to take some notes. You might want to, like I said, pause the vid to take a break, pause the video to take notes. That's fine, that's cool. So, get ready. I'm going to throw a lot of scientific data at you. Okay, the 4 main arguments I'm going to make is that, first of all, cardio does not kill your gains, and scientific studies show this. Number 2, scientific studies show that cardio improves your mental health. Number 3, scientific studies show that cardio improves your heart health. More specifically, regular cardio will help reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease. Lastly, number 4, cardio can help you lose weight. Let's dive into it. Okay. And a little side note here, if you want to check all of the studies, I'll put them in the description below. So, you want to fact check me? I'll put all the studies in the description. Fact check me there if you want. Now, when it comes to academic journals, what we call cardio, they tend to refer to as aerobic exercise. Swimming, aerobic dancing, cycling, running, incline walking, hiking, anything that we consider as cardio, they tend to call aerobic exercise. So I'm just going to use the word cardio for simplicity's sake, but just bear that in mind if you decide to read the articles. Another thing is that we tend to say the term strength training and resistance training interchangeably. That's fine, nothing wrong with that. But I'm going to use the term resistance training just for consistency's sake. Okay, point number 1, cardio does not reduce your muscle mass. Or put another way, cardio does not kill gains. And we in fact have scientific data to show for that. Let's look at this 2021 meta-analysis published in Sports Medicine. This meta-analysis included 43 studies and 1,090 participants. For all of you that don't know, a meta-analysis is a combination of studies, okay? So the meta-analysis will take a whole bunch of studies, put them into one study, essentially, and have more data to deal with that way. So, now, one study is itself Fine, nothing wrong with that. But the meta-analysis is better than one study because the meta-analysis combines multiple studies, like I said. So this meta-analysis in 2021 has 43 studies, 1,090 participants. That's a lot of data. 590 of these participants did both cardio and resistance training. The remaining 500 participants did only resistance training. So in one group right here, they're doing both resistance training and cardio. In this group, they're only doing resistance training. So which group grew more muscle? Well, for almost all of the studies, it turns out that muscle gains were roughly similar between the two groups. So in this group right here, you have the group that does cardio and resistance training. They grew similar amount of muscle compared to the group that only did resistance training. Given that both groups grew similar amounts of muscle, this implies that cardio does not kill gains. And a little side note here, 1 rep max gains between the cardio and resistance training group and the resistance training group, both of them had similar gains in 1 rep maxes, which further shows that cardio does not kill gains. And by the way, it's not just one study. We're going to look at 2 more studies as well. Alright, we're going to take a look at this 2014 clinical trial, which included 10 young men. Now this study was really interesting. Check it out. These 10 men did a 5-week workout program. Here's how the workout program worked. On one leg, these men would perform 40 minutes of single leg cycling. After they did the single leg cycling, that same leg would do resistance training. So this leg right here did both cardio and resistance training on the same leg. On the opposite leg, the men only did resistance training. Let me give you an example to help illustrate this. Use your imagination here. Let's pretend for a minute that I'm one of the participants. On my left leg, okay, I'm going to do 40 minutes of cycling. Then, after my left leg is done cycling, I'm going to do resistance training on my left leg. Okay? Then, on my right leg, I'm only going to do resistance training for my right leg. Okay? So my left leg is doing both cycling and resistance training, but my right leg's only doing resistance training. That's basically how the study worked. Well, which leg grew more muscle? Here, check this out. The leg that did both cardio and resistance training grew more muscle compared to the leg who only did resistance training. Very interesting result right there. So in this case, cardio did not kill gains. And in fact, it arguably helped gains. Very cool result. Now, we're going to look at one more study. So, the first 2 studies showed that cardio does not kill gains. And this third one essentially concluded the same thing. We have this 2018 clinical trial, published in Sports Medicine. There were 32 young men, and these men were divided into 3 groups. One group did only resistance training. The second group did only cardio. Their cardio consisted of cycling, more specifically. The third group, the men did both resistance training and cardio. We're going to call this the combination group, if you will. So, after the 12-week study, gains in lean body mass is not quite muscle mass, but it's similar to it. Gains in lean body mass were virtually identical between the resistance training only group and the combination group. Alright? Remember, the combination group did both cardio and resistance training. This group right here did only resistance training, yet they grew identical amounts of lean body mass. The fact that these 2 groups grew similar amounts of lean body mass strongly implies that cardio does not kill gains. To further illustrate this point, relative 1 rep max gains between the resistance training only group and the combination group were similar. Again, the fact that both groups had similar relative 1 rep max gains strongly implies that cardio doesn't kill gains. Relative 1 rep max, for all you that don't know, that refers to a 1 rep max relative to your body weight, in case you're wondering what that means. So we looked at 3 different studies here: 2021 meta-analysis, 2014 clinical trial, and the 2018 sports medicine article show that, in general, cardio does not kill your gains. Now, I'm going to talk about my personal experience as well. I realize that my experience is not scientific, but I think it's worth talking about. I seriously started weight training in 2024, and I've been training pretty seriously for a little over a year. I run almost every day, so I do a lot of cardio, okay? I do a lot of cardio, yet I have consistently made muscle gains, all right? So I can tell you from my personal experience, doing cardio will not kill your gains. And my experience agrees with the scientific studies, which show that cardio, in general, does not kill gains. Now, I should bring up a little bit of nuance here. It is possible to kill gains by doing too much cardio. That being said, you have to do an extremely high amount of cardio for that to be the case. Okay, we're talking like you have to do like 5 days of cardio and you do like an hour plus of cardio every day or something stupid like that. So you can kill gains by doing too much cardio, but you'd have to do an extremely high amount for that to be the case. And realistically, nobody comes close to that. So for most people, if you do cardio, you're probably not killing your gains. In my opinion, if you are resistance training, good, keep doing that. If you do 1 to 3 weekly cardio sessions, that's probably fine. You're probably not going to kill your gains. So, like I said, in general, cardio won't kill your gains unless you go totally stupid on the cardio. Okay, let's bring us to point number 2. Point number 2 is that scientific studies show that cardio improves your mental health. Now, this section right here is going to be split into 2 parts, okay? We're going to look at scientific studies as they relate to cardio and depression. The second one is going to look at cardio and anxiety. Now, again, I'm going to draw off my personal experience right here. I'm not going to go into too much detail, and I don't want a sob story, but I have dealt with depression in the past, okay? I'm 33 years old, and I've struggled with depression for years. And I have found in my experience that cardio does not cure my depression, but it does help, okay? So in my experience, cardio is extremely helpful for my mental health. Cardio has reduced my depression in my experience, and I'd imagine it's done the same for others. So in my experience, cardio is good for my mental health, and scientific studies seem to support that. We're going to look at, like I said, 3 studies that look at cardio and depression. Then we'll look at 2 more studies that look at cardio and anxiety. We're first going to look at this 2023 meta-analysis, which was published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine. Remember, a meta-analysis is a combination of multiple studies, so it's great evidence. This meta-analysis looked at 41 studies. These 41 studies included 2,264 participants, and all of these participants were suffering from depression symptoms. The participants were divided into 2 basic groups: intervention group, who regularly did exercise, and the control group. The control group did not exercise at all. What the researchers found at the end of the study was that the intervention group significantly reduced their depression symptoms. So apparently, exercise helps reduce depression. Very good. But things get interesting when you compare resistance training to cardio. All right, the researchers found that resistance training was effective at reducing cardio. So resistance training works pretty dang good at reducing depression. But cardio works a little better at reducing depression. Interesting result right there. So resistance training and cardio, they both reduce depression, which is good, but cardio is just a little better at reducing depression. Interesting result. Up next, we got a 2024 meta-analysis, which was published in JAMA Network. I hope I said that right. The JAMA network included 25 studies, which had 1,931 participants. All of these participants were adults who were diagnosed with cancer. That's tragic. And all these participants were struggling with depression. Getting cancer is depressing, so I believe it. Poor people. Anyway, these participants were divided into two groups. The first group was the intervention group, who did regular cardio exercise. The second group was the control group, who did no exercise at all. What happened? In almost all 25 studies, the intervention group saw significant decreases in their depression. Much like the first study, this shows that cardio is effective at reducing depression. Now, I should note that this study was specifically looking at depression in cancer patients. But still, I think it's worth noting that the cardio was effective at reducing depression in cancer patients. So if you have a family member who's got cancer, tell him or her to do cardio, if possible. It legitimately will help him or her out based on this study. Okay, we're going to look at the last study regarding cardio and depression. We have here a 2023 meta-analysis, which was published in the Journal of Affective Disorders. This included 8 studies. These 8 studies had 872 participants. All these participants were adults diagnosed with depression. Now, these participants were divided into two groups. One group was called the intervention group, who did regular exercise. The majority of this exercise, almost all of it, was cardio. Okay? So we have an intervention group who's doing mostly cardio. Then you have the control group who did not exercise at all in these meta-analyses. Little side note, the cardio in this study, or meta-analysis rather, included treadmill walking, indoor cycling, and aerobic dancing. Well, what happened at the end of all these studies? Well, the intervention group, who did cardio, saw small but significant decreases in their depression symptoms. The very fact that the intervention group reduced their depression and they did cardio, that implies that cardio helps reduce depression. That's good news. So, we look at all these 3 meta-analyses here. 2023 British Journal of Sports Medicine, the 2024 JAMA Network meta-analysis, and the 2023 Journal of Affective Disorders meta-analysis. All of these studies, all of these meta-analyses came to the same conclusion. Cardio helps reduce depression symptoms. And this agrees with my personal experience, like I said. So all these meta-analyses show that cardio helps reduce depression. Will it cure depression? No. Cardio will not cure your depression, but cardio will help reduce your depression symptoms. Cardio will reduce your depression. So, in my experience, personal experience, I can tell you now, cardio helps reduce depression, and these studies agree with me on that. So, if you're depressed, do cardio. Seriously, do cardio. It will help you out a lot. So, if you want to help alleviate your depression, do some cardio. It will help you out. What about anxiety, you ask? Does cardio help with anxiety? Yes, it does. We have 2 studies that prove it. Let's jump in. Okay, first, we're going to look at this 2018 BMC Health Services Research meta-analysis. This meta-analysis had 15 studies. That's a lot of data. 15 studies with 675 participants. All these participants were adults who had anxiety. Now, something a little bit interesting with this meta-analysis is that these 15 studies were subdivided into 2 groups. For 10 of those studies, 10 of them compared an exercise group to a control group. The control group did not exercise. The remaining 5 studies had 2 groups, and both of these groups did cardio exercise. One group did low-intensity cardio. The other group did high-intensity cardio. when I looked at the study, it didn't really specify if the high-intensity cardio was hit. It may have been hit, may not have been, I don't know. But that's what they called it, high-intensity cardio. So, what happened? Well, we'll start with the 10 studies. The 10 studies that compare the exercise group to the control group. For those 10 studies, the exercise group significantly reduced their depression. The control group saw little to no anxiety. My apologies. The exercise group significantly reduced their anxiety symptoms. The control group, who did not exercise, saw virtually no improvement in their anxiety. So, this finding strongly implies that cardio helps reduce anxiety. I should note a limitation in this study. The overwhelming majority of the exercises done were cardio. Alright, so the majority of these 10 studies, the exercises were cardio. That being said, there were 2 studies in particular that do skew the data somewhat. Out of these 10 studies, in one of them, the exercise group did only resistance training. In another study, the exercise group did both resistance training and cardio. Again, this is 2 studies out of 10, so I don't think it skews the data too much, but I think it's something that I should mention for honesty's sake. So, these 10 studies compared an exercise group who mostly did cardio and a control group. When you consider that the exercise group reduced their anxiety and they did mostly cardio, we can, I think, reasonably conclude that cardio helps reduce anxiety. Now, let's look at the remaining 5 studies, okay? The remaining 5 studies compared low-intensity cardio to high-intensity cardio as it pertains to reducing anxiety. Well, both forms of cardio were effective at reducing anxiety, with high-intensity cardio being slightly more effective at reducing anxiety. So in these 5 studies, you have low-intensity cardio, which significantly reduces anxiety. That's good, that's awesome. But high-intensity cardio is a little bit better at reducing anxiety. All right? So low-intensity cardio, high-intensity cardio, both of them are effective at reducing anxiety. High-intensity cardio is just a little bit better. All right? But low-intensity cardio, high-intensity cardio, whatever, both of them significantly reduce anxiety, according to this meta-analysis here. Okay, and a little side note here, it's not just one study. We got ourselves a 2023 meta-analysis. This was published in the Journal of Affective Disorders. Now, if this study seems familiar to you, it should. I cited this study earlier when I was talking about how cardio reduces depression. So, I'm citing the same article here. Now, I'm looking at it from a different angle, but still, it is the same article. So, the Journal of Affective Disorders meta-analysis here had 6 studies. These 6 studies included 653 participants. All these participants were adults with anxiety. Now, these meta-analysis, the patients were split into 2 groups. One group did regular cardio exercise. The other group, the control group, did no exercise at all. By the end of the meta-analysis, all the patients who did cardio saw small but significant reductions in their anxiety symptoms, compared to the control group who saw no improvements in their anxiety. So you recall that the 2018 BMC Health Services Research meta-analysis, which I discussed right before this, the 2018 meta-analysis suggested that cardio helps reduce anxiety, and this study concluded the same thing. This study also concluded that cardio helps reduce anxiety. Pretty interesting that 2 meta-analyses came to the same exact conclusion, that cardio helps reduce anxiety. So, as I just talked about, all of the studies cited here show that cardio helps reduce depression symptoms, and the studies all show that cardio helps reduce anxiety. So, if you want to reduce your depression, cardio will help you out. If you want to reduce your anxiety, cardio also will help you out. consider that science overwhelmingly shows that cardio reduces depression and anxiety, I think we could confidently say that cardio improves your mental health. So, if you need to improve your mental health, a little bit of cardio will help you out. The science says so. So you want to fix your brain health? Do some cardio. This brings me to my third point, is that cardio reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease, and science proves it. We're going to look at two recent studies which show that cardio reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease. We're first going to look at this 2024 randomized control trial published in European Heart Journal. Now, this randomized control trial included 381 overweight adults. These adults were at risk for developing cardiovascular disease, as they had numerous risk factors, more specifically obesity and high blood pressure, both of which increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. So these people need to get their stuff together, or else they'll get cardiovascular disease, potentially. Now, this study split the participants into 4 groups. First, there was a control group who didn't exercise at all. The second group was a resistance training only group. The third group was the cardio only group. And finally, number 4, we have the combination group. The combination group did both cardio and resistance training. We're not really going to look at the control group here because they did literally nothing, so we're not going to look at them here. But we'll look at the other 3 interventions, or the other 3 groups rather. Okay, the study lasted for 1 year, and you can see the interventions on the screen right here. What the heck happened after 1 year? Well, the researchers looked at cardiovascular disease risk Z-score. Cardiovascular disease risk Z-score is a formula that the researchers use to determine somebody's risk of developing cardiovascular disease. This score took into account blood pressure, body weight, LDL cholesterol levels, and stuff like that. They looked at all of these factors, and they created a score basically to determine if somebody was more likely or less likely to get cardiovascular disease in the future. The cardio-only group and the combination group both saw significant decreases in their cardiovascular disease risk Z-score. That's a fancy way of saying that the cardio-only group and the combination group significantly reduced their risk of cardiovascular disease. Very good news. So the cardio-only group, they reduced their risk of getting cardiovascular disease. The combination group, who did cardio by the way, also reduced their risk of getting cardiovascular disease. Great news, that's awesome. But the results were not so awesome for the resistance training only group. The resistance training only group saw very minimal decreases in the risk for developing cardiovascular disease. So the resistance training only group saw very minimal improvements in reducing the risk for cardiovascular disease. Compare that to, say, the cardio group and the combination group, both of which significantly reduced the risk of cardiovascular disease. This study strongly implies that doing cardio will significantly reduce your risk of getting cardiovascular disease. And as you can see right here, you can read that for yourself. The fact that the cardio-only group and the combination group significantly reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease strongly implies that regular cardio exercise will help reduce your risk for developing cardiovascular disease. You might want to pause the video and write this all down. Okay, so as we can see from this study, regular cardio exercise helps reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease. And by the way, it's not just one study, because we got another one. We have a second study, a 2019 randomized control trial, published in, I hope I'm saying this right, PLOS ONE? I hope I'm saying that right. I'm sorry if I butchered it. But in this study right here, we have 66 adults. All right? And much like the first study, all these adults are at serious risk for developing cardiovascular disease. They have numerous risk factors, such as obesity, high blood pressure, sedentary lifestyle, stuff like that. Not good. So, Much like the first study that I looked at, they were divided into 4 groups. The control group did not exercise, the cardio-only group, the resistance training only group, and the combination group. Like the study I just talked about earlier, the combination group did both cardio and resistance training. The cardio in this study consisted of cycling and or running on a treadmill, in case you were curious. So in terms of exercise program and in terms of design, this is fairly similar to the 2024 study that I just talked about. So, what happened at the end of the study? What went down? Well, the combination group significantly reduced the risk of developing cardiovascular disease. Alright, the combination group, who did cardio by the way, significantly reduced the risk of getting cardiovascular disease. Good job, combination group. Now, the cardio-only group also significantly reduced the risk for developing cardiovascular disease. The combination group was more successful at the cardio group for reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease, but both groups successfully reduced the risk for developing cardiovascular disease. So the results were pretty good for the combination group and for the cardio-only group. But sadly, the results were not favorable for the resistance training only group. The resistance training only group did reduce the risk for developing cardiovascular disease, but it was by a very small amount. So here in this study, you got resistance training only reduced the risk of cardiovascular disease by a small amount. Then you have the cardio group, cardio only group, who significantly reduced the risk of cardiovascular disease. They did way better than this group here. And then cardio did pretty good, but the combination group, the combination group did the best at reducing the risk for cardiovascular disease. So, the cardio-only group and the combination group did cardio, they both did cardio, and they significantly reduced the risk for getting cardiovascular disease. Sadly, the group that did no cardio did not significantly reduce the risk for cardiovascular disease. This finding that I talked about is virtually identical to the 2024 study that I just talked about. They're virtually the same findings. So apparently, according to 2 different studies, exercise groups who do cardio significantly reduce the risk for getting cardiovascular disease, as where exercise groups who don't do cardio get very minimal benefit from reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease. I find that pretty interesting, that 2 different studies came to the same conclusion. And you can pause the video and write down the findings right here, but suffice it to say, the 2024 European Heart Journal study and the 2019 PLOS One study both show that cardio exercise will reduce the risk for developing cardiovascular disease. So, if you're concerned about cardiovascular disease, you can significantly reduce your risk for getting cardiovascular disease if you do cardio, according to these studies, that is. So, do some cardio, you will reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease, and your life will be much better, according to the scientific studies here. Okay. Last number point. This is the last point, and then after this, I'll refute some anti-cardio points made by influencers. So, point number 4 is that cardio can help you lose weight. I'm going to start this off with some personal experience, alright? Long time ago, I used to work at the Home Depot. This was in 2015, I want to say. So it's a while ago, okay? 2015, I was working at Home Depot, and I was a cart attendant. As you can probably tell from the name, my job was to walk around the parking lot, gather the carts, put them back in the store. That was it. Not surprisingly, because my job was to walk around the parking lot, this job required a lot of walking. Walking is cardio, as you know. So I was doing a lot of cardio in my job, and I was running almost every day, which is even more cardio, okay? So when I was a cart attendant, I was doing lots of cardio at my job, walking more specifically, and I was doing even more cardio when I was running on my own. cardio on top of cardio. I also decided to fix my diet a little bit. I just want to see how light I can get. So I was doing a shit ton of cardio, both in my job and in my free time, and I decided to eat less food. Well, you combine a high amount of cardio along with me eating less food. What do you get? A calorie deficit. And when I got a calorie deficit, I lost weight. I went down from like 138 to like 130 or 129, something like that. I lost a surprisingly high amount of weight. And I did it through a calorie deficit. So, not to be a snark, but all of these people say, calorie deficits don't work. Screw you, you're wrong. Sorry, but you're wrong. I did a calorie deficit and I lost weight. So, if you're in a calorie deficit and you're not losing weight, you're not in a calorie deficit. Sorry. Anyway, so I did cardio and I ate less food. I lost weight. And by the way, it's not just me either. I had a coworker who was also a cart attendant, and he did the same thing I did. He was walking around the parking lot, doing a whole lot of cardio at his job, because walking's cardio. He ate less food, like me, and he lost weight. So you had me doing a lot of cardio, eating less food, I lost weight. My coworker, same thing. He did a lot of cardio, he ate less food, and he lost weight. Based on my experience and my coworker's experience, cardio can help you lose weight. And scientific studies agree with me on this. Let's dive into it. All right. First, we're going to re-examine the 2024 European Heart Journal study. Now, I do realize that this is not a true weight loss study. All right. It did measure the participants' body fat. So I think it's relevant to weight loss, even though, like I said, this is not a true weight loss study. So, like I said, there were three main exercise groups. The cardio-only group, the resistance training-only group, and the combination group. The combination group did both cardio and resistance training. So all exercise groups, they lost body fat, okay? The resistance training-only group lost a decent amount of body fat, but the cardio-only group and the combination group lost slightly more body fat relative to the resistance training group. Although I should note that the differences between these groups was not statistically significant. So, resistance training group, cardio-only group, and combination group, they all lost body fat, and the combination group and the cardio-only group lost more body fat relative to the resistance training-only group. But again, remember, the differences here were not statistically significant. So, just consider that. However, while the differences here were not that significant, for the next study, the differences were actually quite noticeable. Now, we're going to dive into this study, the 2019 PLOS ONE study. Now, again, I cited this study earlier when I was talking about cardiovascular disease. So I'm citing the same study again, much like the last one. So again, this is not a true weight loss study, but this study here, the 2019 PLOS ONE, it did look at body fat loss and weight loss. So I think it's still relevant to weight loss. So, who lost the most amount of body fat and or who lost the most amount of weight? Well, the resistance training only group saw significant weight loss, and this weight loss was statistically significant, although this weight loss was relatively small. Compares to, say, the cardio-only group. The cardio-only group lost a lot more weight relative to the resistance training only group. So in this study, you have the resistance training only group. They lost some weight, that's good, but the cardio-only group lost way more weight compared to them. The findings for the combination group were interesting because the combination group actually gained weight, although this weight gain was probably muscle. We're now going to look at body fat percentages, okay? the cardio-only group and the combination group had virtually identical amounts of fat loss, all right? Now, the resistance training only group lost some body fat, but it was significantly less compared to the cardio-only group and the combination group. So in this study, the resistance training only group lost some body fat, which is pretty good, but the cardio-only group lost way more body fat compared to the resistance training only group. And again, the resistance training only group lost some body fat, but the combination group lost way more body fat compared to the resistance training only group. So, when it comes to weight loss and it comes to fat loss, in this study here, the cardio only group way outperformed the resistance training only group. So, in this study at least, cardio only is more effective for fat loss and weight loss when compared to resistance training only, at least in this study here, okay? And the combination group was actually way outperformed. And in this case, in this study here, the combination group lost more body fat, way more body fat, compared to the resistance training only group. So resistance training helps you lose weight, but cardio only helps you lose more weight. Cardio only helps you lose more body fat. And combination only helps you lose more body fat. All right? So cardio helps when it comes to fat loss and weight loss, at least according to this study. Now, I talked about the 2024 and the 2019 studies, which indicate that cardio results in more fat loss and more weight loss relative to resistance training only. You can pause the video and read the findings right here if you wish. Okay, back into it. Okay. So, the studies I cited imply that cardio is more effective for fat loss and weight loss when compared to resistance training only. But a downside to these studies is that they were not true weight loss studies. So, guess what we got? I got a 2013 meta-analysis. And this meta-analysis actually does measure weight loss. It's a true weight loss study. What happened? So, we have a 2013 +1 meta-analysis. And this is a real weight loss study, like I said. This meta-analysis combined 15 studies with 741 participants. They kind of did the same thing with the other studies, where they had a resistance training only group, a cardio only group, and a combination group. So, which groups lost the most weight or body fat? Well, the resistance training only group lost some body fat, but the cardio only group lost significantly more body fat compared to resistance training only. And the same thing happened with the combination group. The resistance training only group lost some body fat, but the combination group lost more body fat, okay? So when it comes to body fat loss, resistance training only did pretty good when it came to body fat loss, but cardio and combination training had more body fat loss. Also, your reminder that the cardio group the combination only group did cardio. So the groups who did cardio lost more body fat, significantly more body fat, compared to the resistance training only group. And when it comes to weight, the same thing. The combination group and the cardio group lost significantly more weight compared to the resistance training only group. So this study, this meta-analysis here, strongly implies that cardio is more effective for weight loss and fat loss when compared to resistance training only. You might want to pause the video and write down the findings if you wish. Okay, very good. Let's move on. So, like I said, all of the studies I'm citing right here show that, in general, cardio exercise, or a combination of cardio and resistance training, is more effective for fat loss and weight loss when compared to resistance training only. So you might want to pause the video and write those down if you wish. Alright, so I know it sounds like I'm harping on resistance training in this video. I'm not. Okay, I do resistance training. I weight train a lot, like I said. So I'm not anti-resistance training. I think most people should resistance train. I am not criticizing resistance training at all. There are people who lose weight and lose body fat who do no cardio. They do exist, they are a real thing. But these studies, however, these studies strongly imply that most people will lose more fat or weight if they do cardio, okay? And my real life experience seems to support this as well, although I am one person. So, can you lose weight and body fat doing no cardio and doing only resistance training? Yes, people have done it. But most people would lose more weight or body fat if they did cardio, and the studies right here that I'm citing seem to support that. So you don't have to do cardio to lose weight, but I think doing cardio will make your weight loss journey a lot easier, so I think it would behoove you to do cardio. And before I debunk the anti-cardio influencers, I just want to do a brief revisit on diet. Now, you can do cardio, resistance training, whatever. It will not help you lose weight if you eat too much food. Alright? Just gotta remind you, if you want to lose weight, exercise, sure. Do exercise, you should do it. But you should also fix your diet. Alright? If you want to lose weight, fix your diet, do more exercise, and the weight loss will come. If all you do is exercise, and you still eat like a fatty, you're gonna stay fat. Okay? I mean, no offense saying it, but it's true. Alright, if you want to lose weight, you should exercise, but you should also eat less food. Just a little reminder. Okay, let's move on. Now we're going to debunk some anti-cardio influencers, and I'll try not to have an aneurysm here because some of the arguments they make are kind of mind-bogglingly dumb, for lack of a better term. So, as I explained earlier, you can read on the screen here, cardio does not kill gains, cardio improves your mental health, cardio reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease, and cardio helps with weight loss. Science overwhelmingly proves those 4 points. Unfortunately, though, there's a lot of anti-cardio influencers who spread blatant misinformation about cardio, and I'm going to refute some of their claims in this video. Now, I've already yapped for a long time as it is, so I can't refute every single anti-cardio soundbite, but I'm going to talk about a few of them here. So, the 3 anti-cardio influencers I'm going to discuss more specifically include Mario Rios, Vince Sant, and Dr. Mike Israetel. Vince Sant is that annoying V-Shred guy you've seen a million times. Yeah. Let's move on. Okay, first we're going to talk about Mario Rios. Now, Mario is kind of odd because his main argument that I'm going to refute here, Mario says that cardio is a bad choice for weight loss because it increases your hunger levels. Mario says that cardio increases your hunger and therefore causes you to overeat. And when you overeat, you don't lose weight, obviously. Accordingly, he advises against doing cardio, for weight loss at least. Now, Mario's point actually makes sense until you realize that in a different video, he in fact tells his audience to do cardio to lose weight. So he contradicts himself. In one video here, Mario says, don't do cardio for weight loss. But in a second video, he says, do cardio for weight loss. Wait, what? So he says here, don't do cardio for weight loss, but then you must do cardio for weight loss? He's contradicting himself. Doesn't make any sense. This contradiction pretty much kills whatever credibility he had regarding cardio and weight loss. Yeah, when you contradict yourself like Mario, your credibility goes down to 0. While Mario's contradiction already kills his credibility, I'll give him a little bit of credit here. Some people do eat too much food after they do cardio because cardio makes them hungry. Some people are legitimately like that. There are some people, they're a minority I think, but still, there are some people who get very hungry after they do cardio and then they eat too much food. However, there are solutions to that. The first solution is pretty simple. Drink black coffee. Alright, I have found in my personal experience that drinking black coffee reduces your appetite. So if you're feeling hungry, drink some black coffee. It pushes away the hunger for a little bit. That's a good strategy. Another way you can kill your appetite and thus eat less food is to drink diet soda. Now, but I know like when I say this, there's going to be some keyboard warrior harping on me here. Diet soda does not make you fat, okay? There's a lot of people who go around and say, diet soda makes you hungry. No, it doesn't, okay? To my understanding, there's no scientific study at all that says that, and there's virtually nobody in the real world who gets fat by drinking diet soda. That just does not happen, okay? I've drunk plenty of diet soda over the years myself, and I've never been fat, and I'm not fat now, so I think that kind of shows it. I've literally never heard of a case where somebody got fat from drinking diet soda. I've actually read the opposite. I've read lots of forums, lots of YouTube comments of people who lost weight in part because they drank diet soda. So diet soda is a good way to reduce your appetite and eat less food. It's not going to make you fat, okay? Another strategy to help reduce your appetite and eat less food is to do more intense versions of cardio. I have found that if I do a HIIT cardio session, my hunger levels go down to almost zero for some reason. So if you want to reduce your appetite, do harder versions of cardio, such as HIIT, and that will reduce your appetite to an extent. Another strategy to get around hunger is to simply move a little more. Okay, you can do more cardio. So, like I put here in the slide, you can walk more. Walking more will burn more calories and will help offset any food that you eat. And walking, more exercise might even kill your hunger on top of it, which is good. But it doesn't just have to be walking. Sometimes you could do more cardio to get around the hunger issue. Maybe you ran in the morning. I'm a runner. Maybe you ran in the morning. Well, you can maybe run in the afternoon. Maybe you ran for like 30 minutes in the morning. You can run for 30 minutes in the afternoon and get 60 minutes of running that way. That might help. Maybe you cycled in the morning and you went for an hour. Maybe do an hour of cycling in the evening. So you got 2 hours of cycling. So doing more cardio can help you out if you have a tendency to overeat. Another strategy, intermittent fasting. Now, I don't intermittent fast, so I'm not shilling for it here, but legitimately, fasting can help manage your hunger levels. So if you find that you like to eat and you eat too much, fasting might legitimately help you. It's certainly something to think about. So, Mario's point is that many people get hungry when they do cardio, and so they overeat. That is a real concern for some people, but as I point out here, there are strategies you can use to get around that issue. So I would say that the answer is not don't do cardio. It's rather find ways that you can reduce your hunger. It could be drinking black coffee. It could be drinking diet soda. It could be doing more intense versions of cardio. It could be fasting. Or it could be multiple strategies in here. So if you do any of those strategies, you will probably eat less food, and thus the hunger spike will become less of a problem. And a little side note regarding Mario, there's a lot of people, myself being one of them, funny enough, there's a lot of people who find that cardio, in fact, reduces their appetite. So cardio actually makes them eat less, if anything. So I do understand that Mario is talking about people who get hungry when they do cardio, and they are real. I know this. They're real for sure. But there's a lot of people who, when they do cardio, they eat less food because cardio actually kills their appetite. So Mario's blanket statement of cardio makes you hungry, it's not true. Blanket statements in general are not true. So that's something to consider. So, to be honest, Mario's advice wasn't too bad, honestly. But oh man, Vince is horrible when it comes to anti-cardio rhetoric. Man, there's a lot to unpack here. He makes so many mind-boggling, stupid anti-cardio takes that I would be here for days debunking his anti-cardio rhetoric. But I don't want to be here for days. I'm going to debunk 3 anti-cardio takes that Vince has, because I don't want to be here all day. I've been here long enough. The first point I'm going to talk about is that cardio is not effective for weight loss due to the compensation effect. The second point I'm going to refute is that cardio is bad exercise because it burns calories. Yes, I'm dead serious. Vince actually said that. As stupid as that sounds, he legit said this. The last and third point I'm going to refute by Vince. Vince says that resistance training is more effective for fat loss and weight loss because it speeds up your metabolism. No, it really doesn't, and I'll get to that shortly. Also, a little side note here. Given how he looks, I'm 90+% convinced that Vince is taking a lot of performance-enhancing drugs. Steroids, human growth hormone, insulin. He's juiced to the gills, I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. As for me, I call roids. Okay. We're going to start with Vincent's discussion on the compensation effect. Okay, Vince says that if you do cardio for too long, then your body will magically stop burning fat as energy. According to Vince, if you do cardio for too long, your body will just, by pure magic, your body will stop burning fat as energy. Instead, your body will store the fat and therefore make you fatter. Vince claims that this is the compensation effect. There's only one problem with this. Real life debunks Vince. There's a lot of people, okay, who do regular cardio as professional athletes, professional marathoners, professional cyclists. Think the Tour de France, speed walkers, pro swimmers, and others. These pro athletes literally do cardio for hours a day. In fact, some of them literally run on the treadmill for hours. Literally, okay? So, they do cardio for hours for a long ass time. According to Vince's logic, if doing cardio for too long makes you store fat, these pro athletes right here should be storing fat and therefore should be morbidly obese. Yeah, that's kind of bullshit. Because if you look at, say, marathoners, cyclists, swimmers, absolutely zero of them are fat. And they are not fat because their body is not storing fat. Wait, you mean to tell me that if you do cardio for hours on day, your body does not store fat? Oh my goodness! Breaking news! So, yeah, the very fact that these pro athletes who literally do cardio for hours a day are not fat proves that your body does not store fat because you did cardio for hours on end. That's not how the body works, Vince. Sorry, that's not the way the body works. Nice try, though. However, interestingly, I have noticed that people who don't do cardio are often morbid obese. That's interesting. So people who do cardio for hours on end are not fat, but the people who don't do cardio are fat? Interesting. Wonder why that could be. So not only is Vince wrong when he says that doing cardio for too long makes you fat, it doesn't, as I just explained, but he's doubly wrong because how he defines the compensation effect is also wrong. Shocking. The compensation effect is when you work out really, really hard, and then your body compensates for that by being less active throughout the day. Let's take, for example, a football player. Let's say a football player had a really hard practice. He's tackling, he's running, he's blocking, he's doing big hits, hours on end. The football player is tired. So his body compensates for the tiredness by sitting on his couch. Okay? That's the compensation effect right there. Or let's use another example. Let's say there's an ultramarathoner. Okay? The ultramarathoner ran for literally 2 hours, 3 hours or whatever. He's exhausted. So what does the marathoner do? He's too tired, so he sits on his couch and he watches TV. He compensated for his tiredness by not moving for the rest of the day. That's what the compensation effect is. So how Vince describes the compensation effect is ridiculously wrong, and it's nowhere close to right. So the idea that doing cardio for too long makes you fat, it's bullshit. It's not true. And yeah, I think I'll already beat it to death here. And one last thing, I'm going to throw a little bit of shade on Vince here, because he says, Vince, his words, he sees people running for hours on the treadmill and not losing weight. So then I gotta say, if you legitimately are seeing somebody running for hours upon hours on the treadmill a day and not losing weight, that person is probably eating like an absolute dumbass. We're talking like eating 20,000 calories a day or something stupid like that. Which 99.99% of people aren't doing last time I checked. Stupid Vince. Okay, man, this argument really made me almost burst in aneurysm because it's so awful. Okay, then the second anti-cardio argument that Vince had was that it is pointless to do cardio because cardio burns calories. And you replace those calories in the next meal you eat. So Vince is saying, because you eat calories in your next meal, you shouldn't do cardio because cardio burns calories. Like, legitimately, that's his argument. Vince is saying you should not do cardio because it burns calories. Everything burns calories, stupid Vince! Literally, you do anything, it burns calories. I turn on my light on and off. That burned calories. Not a lot, but still. When you lift weights in the gym, you burn calories. You walk around the block, you burn calories. You wake up, you burn calories. Not a lot, but still. You drive your car, you're burning calories. Not a lot, but still. You go to sleep, you're burning calories. You do literally anything in the real world, you're burning calories. So Vince is seriously saying you should not do cardio because it burns calories. I guess by his rationale, we should never lift weights because lifting weights burns calories. But wait a minute. Vince says that you should lift weights to burn calories. So here you have Vince saying you must lift weights because it burns calories, while also saying you should not do cardio because it also burns calories. That's pretty stupid, don't you think? Vince also says you should not do cardio because it burns calories. I guess that means we shouldn't ever eat food then. Eating food burns calories. Not a lot, but still. Eating food burns calories. I guess by his reasoning, we should never eat food. So we just starve to death and die? That's pretty stupid, don't you think? So I mean, yes, you should do cardio, and yes, it does burn calories, but so does literally everything, so that is such a stupid argument that it's not worthy of consideration. Finally, the third and final anti-cardio argument by Vince is that lifting weights, he says that lifting weights will rev up your metabolism, and therefore it's more effective for weight loss compared to cardio. Now, I'll give a little bit of credit to Vince on this. His argument is kind of sound here. Vince says that when you lift weights, you build muscle. And because muscle speeds up your metabolism, it's more effective for weight loss when compared to cardio. Now, technically Vince is right here, but he's extremely misleading to the point that I would actually say he's wrong. Yes, it is true. Gaining muscle does speed up your metabolism, but it's by a really small amount. I'm going to give you an unrealistic example to prove my point here. Alright? For most people that are natural, that is not taking steroids, for most people that are natural, the most amount of muscle they could gain in 1 year is roughly 24 pounds, give or take a few pounds or so. Alright? For most people trained naturally and optimally, most people could gain roughly 24 pounds of muscle in 1 year. Okay? 1 pound of muscle burns roughly 6 to 10 calories a day. Let's be really generous here. Assume that somebody had extremely good genetics and burns 10 calories per pound of muscle. So you have somebody genetically gifted, gained 24 pounds of muscle in 1 year, and burns 10 calories per pound of muscle for 240 extra calories burned per day. That sounds like a lot until you realize that humans literally eat thousands of calories a day. So this guy's eating 2,000, 3,000, whatever calories per day and burns an additional 240 calories a day. It's something, but it's not that much, really. So burning an additional 240 calories per day is a small amount of calories burned. It's not that significant in the grand scheme of things. And by the way, the example I gave is unrealistic. Because like I said, that's like if you train perfectly and you're genetically gifted. The overwhelming majority are not going to come close to that. What's more realistic is maybe you gain like 10 pounds of muscle and you burn like 7 calories per pound of muscle in a year. So that's maybe like 70 calories burned per day. So the point I'm making is that yes, your metabolism does speed up when you gain muscle, but it's by a really small amount. It's certainly not revving up your metabolism, as Vince says. So yes, lifting weights will speed up your metabolism, but it will speed up your metabolism by a small amount. Certainly not enough to where it's worth talking about for most people. Oh, a little side note here. The scientific studies disagree with Vince. Shocking, I know. Vince says that resistance training only is more effective for weight loss when compared to cardio only, but the studies show the opposite. All the studies you have on screen here, the 2013 PLOS ONE meta-analysis, 2024 European Heart Journal, and the 2019 PLOS ONE study, all of them consistently showed that cardio-only training resulted in more fat loss and more weight loss compared to resistance training only. So we have credible scientific studies saying that cardio-only training results in more weight loss and more fat loss compared to resistance training only. Yet Vince here is saying, do this, which burns less calories and burns less fat than this, cardio training only. So the studies say, screw you, Vince, you're wrong. Alright? Screw him, he's wrong, the studies disagree with him. Okay, I know I'm going to get roasted for critiquing Dr. Mike here, but still, he's spreading some blatant bullshit about cardio here, and I'm going to call him out on it. He sadly uses his PhD to spread misinformation about exercise. There's 3 main points I'm going to talk about here. First, in the video, all of these points, by the way, came from his video. Cardio isn't great for fat loss, if you want to check that out. But the first thing that Dr. Mike says is that exercise is not effective for weight loss. He also says that you can undo a 6-mile run if you eat 3 Twinkies. Finally, the last point that Dr. Mike says is that exercise will make you healthier even if the exercise did not help you lose weight. Let's dive in. And I'll try not to burst an aneurysm when I do this. Okay, the first point he makes is that exercise is not effective for fat loss or weight loss. The only problem? The scientific studies that I cited overwhelmingly disagree with him on this. The 2013 PLOS ONE meta-analysis, the 2024 European Heart Journal study, and the 2019 PLOS ONE study all showed that exercise was effective for both weight loss and fat loss. Alright? Now, the resistance training, even the group that did resistance training only, they lost a decent amount of fat and weight. Whether it was resistance training only, cardio only, or a combo, all of those groups in those studies, all of them lost weight. All of them lost fat. So all these studies that I'm citing here show that exercise does in fact help you lose weight. Yet you have Dr. Mike lying and saying exercise does not help you lose weight. The scientific studies literally say that exercise helps you lose weight, and you have scumbag Dr. Mike lying. You have him lying, saying it doesn't help you lose weight. Exercise helps you lose weight, the scientific studies say so, and Dr. Mike is lying when he says that they don't. So fuck you, Dr. Mike. I mean it. Okay, sorry for the outburst, but really, his lying does piss me off here. Another thing I should talk about here is that Dr. Mike says you can undo 6 miles of running if you eat 3 Twinkies. I'll grant him that. You can, okay? If you eat 3 Twinkies, yes, you will undo 6 miles of running. But the solution is pretty simple. Don't eat the Twinkies. You remember what I talked about Mario? If you find that hunger is an issue with you when you exercise, there's a lot of easy solutions to fix that problem. You can drink more black coffee. You can drink diet soda. You can intermittent fast. There's a lot of easy strategies you can do to alleviate hunger. Dr. Mike gives this impression that you can't fix hunger issues after you do cardio, but that's bullshit. As I explained earlier, you can do certain strategies to help you alleviate hunger. If you do a 6-mile run and you don't eat the Twinkies, you're not going to undo the run. Say you do a 6-mile run and you drink black coffee, problem solved. You don't eat the Twinkies. You do a 6-mile run, you drink diet soda, boom, you didn't eat Twinkies, you didn't undo the run. Let's say you do a 6-mile run, you decide to intermittent fast afterwards, you don't eat the Twinkies, you don't undo the run. I'm going to give a little theory here. It's a theory, I can't prove this, but it's my theory. I should note that Dr. Mike has tried for years, possibly a decade, but for years at least, he has tried to become a professional bodybuilder. Yet, he has consistently failed to become a bodybuilder, in part because he can't get lean enough. And the reason why he cannot get lean is because his diet is deficient. He eats too much food. Alright? I got a theory here. My theory is that Dr. Mike is undisciplined when it comes to food. He can't put the fork down. He eats like an idiot. He eats too much food because he has no discipline. But instead of doing the right thing and saying that he needs to fix his diet, he assumes that everybody is as lazy and undisciplined as he is. He is the one who can't put the fork down. Yet he assumes that everybody is like him and cannot put the fork down. Alright? So instead of working on himself so he can put the fork down, he assumes that everybody is like him and can't put the fork down. I got some news for you, Mike. If you can't put the fork down, that's a you problem. There's lots of people in the world who can and do put the fork down. If you can't put the fork down, Mike, that's your fault, that's your problem. You can fix the problem for sure. Lots of people have fixed the problem. Lots of people have learned strategies to put the fork down. But Mike, if you can't put the fork down, you should learn how to put the fork down. Put the freaking fork down, Mike. You can learn how to do it. You should stop assuming that everybody can't put the fork down because you personally can't put the fork down. Okay, rant over. Okay, this is a bit off topic, but I think it's worth talking about. Because I think this shows you how dishonest Mike is. Mike says that exercise will make you healthier even if you don't lose weight. According to his argument, if you're overweight but you exercise, you will improve your health. The only problem with this is that the Ramsey Healthcare article disagrees with him on that. The Ramsey Healthcare article, I'll put that in the description too, by the way, shows that if you're overweight and you exercise, you're still not healthy. Okay? So, you really do need to get to a healthy weight if you really want to improve your health. So, the Ramsey Healthcare article shows, for example, that there was a study of 17,000 adults. Now, there were a lot of these adults in this study who were overweight, but they regularly exercised. These people were still in poor health. They had a 28% higher risk of coronary heart disease when compared to people of normal weight. So, in this 17,000 human study, the people who exercised but were overweight were still unhealthy, and their poor health was evident by the fact that they are 28% more likely to get coronary heart disease compared to people of normal weight. Similarly, also from the article, people who regularly exercise but are still overweight have a 7% higher risk of cerebrovascular disease compared to people of normal weight. So people who exercise but are still overweight, they're still more likely to get coronary heart disease, and they're still more likely to get cerebrovascular disease compared to people of normal weight. So Dr. Mike says you will improve your health if you exercise, but you're still overweight. But that is not true when you look at this. This study, or article rather, shows that if you are overweight and you exercise, you're still not healthy. You're not even close to healthy. You still have to get to a normal weight. And it's very dishonest for Mike to say that you improve your health if you exercise but you're overweight, because this article shows otherwise. This article clearly shows that if you want to improve your health to any meaningful extent, you have to get to a normal weight. So it's dishonest for him to say you will improve your health if you exercise but you're still overweight, because this proves him wrong. Okay, I'm sorry if I burst an aneurysm here. I'm sorry for my outburst, but seriously, these anti-cardio influencers are pissing me off, because they are seriously killing people's health, ruining people's health rather, with their lies. So anyway, on a more positive note, if you look at the scientific data overwhelmingly shows that cardio does improve your health. So yeah, do cardio, because it's seriously great for your health. And yeah, you can start today, actually. One thing that's awesome with cardio is that there's a lot of different versions of cardio. You're not stuck with one if you don't like it. Now, I'm a runner. I like to run, but there's different versions of cardio. You don't have to run. There's running, swimming, cycling, aerobic dancing, jump roping, row machine. That's all cardio. Arm bike, break dancing. Not to be gross, but pole dancing, that's cardio. Rollerblading, figure skating, box jumping, hopscotch, walking long distance, that's all cardio. Say you're a soldier and you do a rucksack march, that's cardio. Say you're a basketball player and you do aggressive dribbling, that's cardio. You're a hockey player and you do aggressive hockey dribbling drills, that's also cardio. Okay, the possibilities are almost endless, which is awesome. So if you don't like a certain version of cardio, that's cool, that's fine. Pick one that you like to do. All right? There's a lot of different versions of cardio. There's so much freedom because you can pick the cardio that you want to do. You don't like this cardio? Do this one. And you like it. That's awesome. Pick cardio modalities that you like to do and stick with it. Now, slow and steady or high intensity cardio or both? Do what works for you. You want to do slow and steady? That's awesome. You want to do high intensity cardio? Do that. You want to do both? Even better. Do that. Pick the cardio methods that you want to do. There's almost no limit if you're creative. Now, some of you might say, well, I like to walk, but that's it. Walk. Walking is a hell of a lot better than nothing at all. Hell, some of you might say, well, I only have time for one cardio session. Well, first of all, I would say try to open up your free time so you have more time. But if you legitimately have one day a week to do cardio, do that. I think we could all agree that one day of cardio sure beats the hell out of nothing at all. So there you go. Do cardio. Even once a week is better than nothing at all. So thank you for watching. I appreciate you watching my video, and thank you for putting up with me for so long. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. All right? I hope to put out more content in the future, and I'm so thankful for you for watching this video. Have a good day, do some cardio, and God bless you all. Thank you so much. Have a nice one.